That's what yeah. So let me go. Have a good one. Sounds like this. So you woke me up on both? YouTube is up. Sounds good. All right. Clap it up. Shalom, Yahweh, Shemal, Shabrakatah. To the brothers. Yahweh Shemal, Shabbat to the sisters. It's the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. You understand? Start out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. You know what I mean? Teaching the truth according to the Bible, man. Blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians, we're the true Jews according to the Bible. You understand? And that the oppressor, man, the America, the colonizer, you know what I mean, of the whole world. Again, right now it's the Friday night Lashawan Qadash class, priest officer 50 Lashawan holding it down. And you know what I'm saying? In today's class, we're gonna get into some more facets of the language, understand a few more things. We're gonna get to a couple of topics, but I'm saying we're still staying on that thing about the language. Like I said, I think I'm gonna start just get both my classes deal with the past. I think I'm gonna start with this every time. What's it, Romans 15:4? But young man, it's like you. True, if you can. Romans 15:4.
The book of Romans, chapter 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope.
Right. So whatever was written aforetime was written for our learning. So that's why it's so important that we go back in the past. And people may say, "Oh man, you learned that ancient Hebrew, you learned that old Hebrew, or something like that." No, it ain't old. You know what I'm saying? This is the language of the angels. You understand? This is our culture and our heritage. And the more we get back to it, then the more we stand against the oppression that we're facing every day in this world. You understand? The more we side with the Most High, the more we go away from following after the other nations.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The other nations, you know what I'm saying, that oppressor, he wants you in that suit and tie every day. You know what I'm saying? He wants you in the, you know what I mean? He wants you to look like him. He wants you to be a clone of him. That's why when he sees you, you know what I'm saying, rocking this, you know what I mean, rocking that shield, that Magun da, you know what I mean, he want to ask questions. He don't understand. Well, why are you Jewish? You know what I'm saying? That's what they want to ask you. They see them fringes, you know what I mean? They want to make jokes and say little slick things. They see you in your garment, they want to call you a Power Ranger.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because only understand that they're not saying those things because what you're wearing ain't tawab, ain't fly. I mean, at the end of the day, if you think that some other nation is going to tell a black man how to be fly, then you got another thing coming. You understand? Somebody from another nation cannot. This school is literally comprised of the most hardcore Negroes and Hispanics and Native Indians you've ever seen in your life.
Right.
These brothers is from all walks of life, but a good amount of them, these brothers is from the streets. You know what I'm saying? They've been out there. You know what I'm saying? They from the, you know what I mean? From the gutter all throughout this country. You know what I'm saying? In the UK. You know what I mean? All throughout South America, the Caribbean. You know what I mean? These brothers have seen it all and been through it all. Ain't nobody else gonna be able to tell these brothers about what is fashionable.
Right.
You understand? These brothers know full well what look good and what don't look good. You know what I mean? When they say what they say, call you Power Ranger or whatever the hell else garbage they say, it has nothing to do with what you're wearing. It has everything to do with the fact that they can't stand to see a black man get back to who he really is. They cannot stand to see Salakia, an Israelite, you know what I'm saying, a black, Hispanic, and Native Indian. They can't stand to see you no longer being, you know what I mean, that symbol of oppression, that slave. The further you get away from that slave mentality, the further you get away from that slave mind, the more angry they'll get. The more it'll bother them. You understand? So read that one more time, brother.
The book of Romans, chapter 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we, through
that being said, we're gonna jump right into first things first, brother. I know I've been having you do this just about every week, right?
No problem.
Trying to think. Yeah, if you can, Baba Kushar, just write out for me the alphabet all the way through. We need to really get. I want to get like a bit like the sheet we have with the alphabet. If we can get it blown up and get like a big one somewhere. So, I know we got those, but yeah, like a big one laminated or something, so we can just point at it and people can see it. That'd be too hard. But for now, brother, if you can, Baba Kushar, you can go ahead and just write out in the Assyrian and the ancient. For me, the water. While you're doing that, I'm gonna work on the camera.
You want me to do the Syrian first?
It's the second one. Doesn't matter. Good night. Select. Most High in Christ. So I keep swiveling. Damn it. There we go. Now I got it. Oh, something wrong. Okay. Most High in Christ. You see on YouTube? I'm checking it. Connected. The last one's connected.
Oh, it's connected?
Mm-hmm. Come. What's on the card? The water, brother. The water. All right. So we got ba, da, wa, za, ta, ya. That's brother.
Yeah.
Ta, ya, ka, la. Slow. W. Na, sa, I, pa, to za, kwa, ra, sha, ta. Right? What's not right? I'm not gonna worry about these endings right now. I just wanted to use this just a quick little history lesson. So we have the ancient and we have the Assyrian, right? When did the Assyrian come about?
After the Babylonian captivity?
Mm-hmm. Around what time?
During the time that we came back from Babylon.
Right. Well, this is the Assyrian. This is why it's called Assyrian.
Yeah.
We were in captivity under the Assyrians, and this is around 800 BC.
About 800 BC.
About 800 BC. All right? And that's why this whole new set of, of characters, and that's another thing I want to talk about real fast, is that these are letters, you know what I'm saying? These characters, right? They're just representative of sound, right? So some people get hung up on the characters. See right here, select. Oh, this is wild. It's not so jagged.
Okay.
But like, it's wild. What's my choice? But yeah, just representative of sounds. And another thing that's important to understand is, so what these characters in the ancient Hebrew, right, are called pictographs. Does anybody know what a pictograph is? Yeah.
It's a symbol of something, of a, no, I can't explain what it is, actually.
No, you gotta get your Google machine. Right. Get your Google machine. Right. That's all you gotta do. Look at the word pictograph.
I got it. An ancient or prehistoric drawing or painting on a rock wall. One of the symbols belonging to a pictorial graphic system.
Right.
A diagram representing statistical data.
Read it from the top again.
An ancient or prehistoric drawing or painting on a rock wall.
Keep going.
Hold up, I lost it.
It's what, brother?
Hold on. Let me get it back. This phone's acting up. Hold on.
Take your time, brother.
Okay. All right. An ancient or prehistoric drawing on a painting on a rock wall, one of the symbols belonging to a pictorial graphic system.
The pictorial graphic system. So that's what this is. The ancient Hebrew is a pictorial graphic system, meaning that each one of these letters is representative of an actual thing. It's meant to be, it's not just, see, in English, and we'll get to that in a minute too, some history on the connection between Hebrew and English. But in English, not all the letters work the same way, right? Because in our language, right, this is an A, right? Not our language, but in the English language, right, the language we speak, this is an A, and this is an A, right? The relationship between these letters and the words that they formulate, the characters that they describe, is what is called arbitrary, which means they don't really have a connection. They just chose this symbol, you know what I'm saying, as far as we know, to represent a certain sound. Of course, English is is a newer language in a way. Again, it has roots in Latin, German, Greek. It's a bastard language. And I remember seeing brother say that many years ago. It's a bastard tongue. It has a lot of fathers. It comes from many different roots. But our language, see, as you can see, right? Already you can see a connection between these two symbols, right? Between the A and the A, right? Only difference is, this is actually supposed to represent something. If I'm not mistaken, if you look at the way it's written in ancient, like in handwritten, it's supposed to be representative of an animal. I want to say a bull, right? It's supposed to look like be representative of a certain animal, okay? All of these symbols in some way, shape, or form have that. You understand? And English adopted the imagery of it, but not so much the meanings, okay? And we're gonna get some more grammatical things just to understand how our language needs to be understood because we got to understand who speaks it. So this particular class, we're going to read some Hebrew, but it's also about learning and understanding some just grammatical facts and facets that change how you look at certain words, okay? So, real fast, brother. Salakia. 1 second, let me get you to read something for me. Actually, no, I'll probably listen to it. So, bear with me. I love the water again, brother. Very good. Okay. So one of the things we have to understand about the Hebrew language, right, when it comes to reading it, is that it's not as simple as just, so like the people on Facebook cannot see it. They just see me in the back, munching down fries. Yep. Right. Most high Christ. Come. So there's one particular part of speech that I want to get an understanding of, because our language works on this often. Not all the time, but often enough. Okay, so speech. A figure of speech is an intentional deviation from ordinary language chosen to produce a rhetorical effect. Figures of speech are traditionally classified into schemes which vary the ordinary sequence or pattern of words and tropes where words are made to carry a meaning other than what they ordinarily signify. Okay? Somebody give me an example of that, of a word that's being used in such a way as to mean something that it ordinarily would not mean. Yeah.
I see you in a minute.
Right. Why do you say that? What does that mean?
Because there's no definition on that time. When you say
But a minute is 60 seconds.
Right. So when you say I see you in a minute, it doesn't mean exactly 60 seconds. It can mean a short period of time.
So why would somebody use that? Why not just say I'll see you in whatever amount of time it is?
I guess because they understand amongst themselves what it means.
They understand what?
Amongst themselves.
They understand amongst themselves, which leads me to my next point. The water for that, brother, because that's exactly what I wanted to hear. So the next part, also going in line with the figure of speech, is an idiom. Okay? An idiom is a group of words established by usage as having a meaning not deducible from those of the individual words. All right, let me read that again. A group of words established by usage as having a meaning not deducible from those of the individual words. An example of that would be raining cats and dogs. Because if we break down the phrase raining cats and dogs, right? Somebody from another country, right? They see rain, cats, and dogs. They're gonna be like, I'm talking to a crazy person. I'm talking to somebody who is obviously insane, right? But because of, that's why it said usage. We've heard that word enough times to know raining cats and dogs just means, it's raining heavy. It's raining a lot. It's a colloquial term. I'll look that up as well. So, matter of fact, I'll erase this for now. We brushed up on that. I just wanted to use this. I really had to do this because I just wanted to show there was a pictogram. Let me get some stuff. Yeah, you can't be shot. We're going to write down some of these definitions. Because it's imperative that we understand that you cannot just pick the book up and just understand the Hebrew, you know what I'm saying, off the bat without understanding the context of what's being done. and understanding the context of grammar and language in and of itself. If it's true for English, why wouldn't it be true for Hebrew? Why, brother? I'm not correct. John, now, listen,
You gotta get
right?
in there too.
So there's those three words I want to write down. I'm gonna get the definition for the third one right now. What's my address?
It's not.
Yeah. Come on, brother. Do that mark pad. So the three words, right? The first things first. A colloquialism. That's colloquialism. A colloquialism, a word or phrase that is not formal or literary, typically one used in ordinary or familiar conversation. Colloquialism would be like the fancy way of saying what?
Slang.
Most High Christ. That's all it is. A colloquialism just means it's an informal word used by a specific group of people, right? So like a colloquial New York word, right, would be like son, right? It's a colloquialism. Like it's, first of all, it's informal. You wouldn't go to a business meeting and be like, yeah, you know what I'm saying, son? You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. But it's a colloquialism because it's an informal part of speech that is not literary. But it's, like the definition said, typically one used in ordinary or familiar conversation. So a lot of times you get scholars, or you get so-called scholars, trying to look back and break down the Hebrew or break down the Bible, try to understand what's going on, without forgetting the fact that these are real people talking. These are real people talking, and not all the time did they use, you know what I'm saying, the perfect poetic word. They use colloquial terms. They use figures of speech and they use idioms, right? So the Bible is filled with these things. Figure of speech, idioms, and colloquialism, right? Or I'm going to put it for this slang, essentially. Slang, you know? And that's why you have many instances in the scriptures where you can tell that the words being used are not, or the way it's written, you know what I mean, it's to get across a certain point. It's using like a rhetorical way of wording it just to speak to the kind of people who were talking. You know what I'm saying? There's a part where it says, such and such waxed fat. What does it mean to wax fat? Does that mean he literally lean too much? No. What's that? What could wax fat mean?
Become rich.
It means he got rich. You know what I'm saying? We wax fat. That's just how black people are made. That's how blacks and Hispanics talk. We talk in these in these three things. You know what I mean? I say, you know what I mean? That shirt is hot. Now, isn't that interesting, right? I can say that shirt is hot, but now, I wouldn't say this is a bit of an older, you know what I'm saying, word. But a brother can say, oh, that's cold. And they can both mean the same thing. They can both mean, that's amazing what you just did. Or I like what you're wearing. Oh, that's cold. It's a cold brother right there. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's what it's hot. Literally two opposite words that in context can mean the exact same thing. What you got, brother?
I remember I was in the army, right? My father was his brother from Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And in Philly, if you say Isaac, that means to chill out.
Right.
But in New York, you say Isaac, that means kill a nigga.
Right.
So I was hanging out with this nigga. I picked up the slang.
Right.
I went back to New York and I was in a bar and shit. And I said that shit. And nigga was like, so that's a good.
Yeah. But again, context depends on. That's why we use colloquialism. It's a local slang. The word local is actually in it, right? It's local slang. So, you know what I mean? What's the colloquialism like, right? For example, right? The rapper from Chicago, G-Herbo, right? His name used to be Lil Herb. In New York, a herb is like a punk. We would be like, oh, he's a herb. You heard that before. That's a comment. He's a herb. He's a herb, right? But now, in Chicago, they ask somebody, say, I never heard that before in my life. They just talk different. You know what I mean? It's a colloquialism, but it's still slang. It's words used to represent something else. So we have to be very careful when we're dealing with the Hebrew and understand that it's not perfect. Let's get, for example, let's say like the word stranger, right? So this word stranger pops up a few times in the Bible, correct?
Yeah.
Pops up quite a few times. But what does it mean?
It has several different meanings. It depends on the context.
Mm-hmm.
Stranger could mean another nation.
Mm-hmm.
Stranger could mean an Israelite that came from another town.
Right.
It could be an Israelite that's under another culture.
Most High Christ, yeah. There's so many, and there are many different words, Hebrew words, that are translated to the word stranger, which makes it easier for us. But nonetheless, the problem with a fake Israelite or the problem with a Christian that tries to battle I.S.U.P.K, they're going to lose anyway. But the problem is they see this and it says stranger. It's funny because they think they're so smart and they know everything, right? But that what we just read in the definition for idiom, it said it is not deducible by the collection of words. You cannot deduce just by seeing this word what it means. You can't look on the page, it's stranger. No, you got to dig deeper. You got to get to understand. You got to talk to the brothers who have studied it before from the past. They went to the libraries. You got to get the understanding in the context. Period, point blank. Otherwise, you'll think that every time you see the word stranger, you know what I'm saying, it's talking about a heathen. You know what I'm saying? When that is absolutely not the case. Okay? So, Salakia, that was just a little lesson on just a grammatical understanding. Is there any other words we can think of before I move on to the next part? Okay. House. Right? Why'd you use that word?
Because house could mean literally your house.
Mm-hmm.
It could mean your nation.
Mm-hmm.
It could mean your community.
Right.
Your tribe.
Mm-hmm. Right, and along with that, I'll put under that, right? I'll put this word.
Name. That's a good one.
Right? Because our Americanized mind is so set that neighbor means the Asian man that lives on my floor. You understand? You have any idea how ridiculous that would be, bro? Like literally in my apartment in New York, there's an Asian man. You know how you're on the floor, right? And you have the apartment that's literally at the end of the hallway, the one that's all the way there. That's mine, right? Like the incinerator, and then the next one is this Asian man. He look at me and go on about his business. That's it. The Bible's talking about love thy neighbor. You know what I'm saying? Love thy neighbor with all thy heart. what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go up in this strange Chinese man's house? You know what I'm saying? I'm supposed to take care of his kids for him when he got to go to work? You know what I mean? Like, no, you got to understand the context of what a neighbor is. You understand? We talked about it in the Zondervan, right? Where it breaks down that neighbor usually is talking about Israel. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always talking about Israel, to be honest with you, but you know what I mean? The damn sure is not talking about heathens. You know what I mean? From some faraway land. You know what I'm saying? Your neighbor is not some Italian cat. You understand? Good.
And just what you explained, it proves that we was always living together amongst each other, and we didn't live amongst the heathen.
And I'm glad you said that again, because when we're dealing with these different words, like colloquialism, we're dealing with a locale. So how could stranger mean heathen if we were living amongst ourselves? You know what I'm saying? And I think people think that sojourn in the land means, oh, well, it's like, oh, well, he must be from another country. He must be a foreigner. Like foreigner must mean it's another race. But that's not what that means. So you could add that to this too, right? You could add foreigner. Right? Foreigner, he's foreign. You know what I'm foreign to? The Bronx. When I went to pick you up that day, I was driving around like, oh snap, like it's nice. You know what I mean? I've been to the
nice part of the Bronx.
Right. I'm a stranger to the Bronx. I'm a foreigner to the Bronx. You know what I mean? So that's something we have to understand. Oh, here's a good one, right? Oh man, we can do this all day. I'll use two. First, I'll use this one. I'll use the serpent in the garden, right? An idiom. Because if you just read it, if somebody who doesn't understand the context just reads, and then the serpent said to Eve, they'd be like, oh, so snakes talk, right? But if you're in the U.P.K. and you learned up under Commander General Yohana, you know what I'm saying? Serpent, this is a metaphor. It's a figure of speech. It's talking about the characteristics of a snake. Yeah, right?
It's just funny, that, for years, even up until I was an adult, this is one of the reasons why I rejected the Bible.
Right.
When I was a young man, young man, was because no fucking snake ain't talking to him.
Right. Of course. But the problem is that the people who presented to you never stop and mention this word.
Exactly.
Sorry. Sheep. There are scriptures that tell you what to do if you lose one of your sheep. But then there are scriptures that say, the flock of my pasture, and it's not talking about sheep. When it says they are my sheep, and it's not talking about sheep, it's talking about people. So if that can be the case, that can also be the case. Understand? So we want to be careful with that. We'll get into more of this. Just keep this in mind. As we go on and start learning more nouns and things like that, we'll find some words and we get to those actual those scriptures and we read them in the Hebrew. We'll see the ways in which these words manifest themselves, right? Because if we look up Salak real fast. Wi-Fi. Good night. Anybody got some more other than serpent, house, sheep, neighbor, farm? Oh, there's another one. We can do this all day.
Tree. Virgin,
right? Well, virgin is a little different.
Yeah, it's a little different.
It's a little different because it's the appropriate word. People just don't know the meaning. Right? But yeah, I say fruit because the fruit in the Garden of Eden. A lot of this is, if you notice, a lot of these words are in Genesis, in that garden story. Naked. You know what I mean? There's literally being naked, and then there's being mentally naked, spiritually naked. You know what I mean? It's a lot. Put this one in fast. Right. The word for serpent is nakash. Right? Nakash. How you
Nakash.
No. It's nakash. Right? So Qadash, right? And that's the actual, if you were actually, this is what we're talking about, because this is the word used in Genesis, nakash, to describe the serpent in the garden, but this is the actual Hebrew word for a snake. You know what I mean? It's not a different word, it's the same word. The same word you would use for a little snake on the ground is nakash. And in Genesis, the serpent is called nakash, right? But the same, that's no different than when we say such and such is a rat, such and such is a snake. You know what I'm saying? Such and such, I mean, he a bull. You know what I mean? Or he an animal. Or he a monster. Black people talk like this. If you try to learn the Bible from the oppressor, you won't get this because they don't talk like this. You know what I'm saying? They don't have that. You know what I mean?
That's why that's why for thousands of years they tried to convince people that the serpent in the garden was.
No, they didn't try. They accomplished it.
Yeah.
They accomplished it. Because most people will tell you, like, okay, then who did Eve talk to in the garden? You know, talk to the serpent. Okay, so she was what? Who was the serpent? He was a snake. That's what they will tell you. You know what I'm saying? The trees, they'll say the trees are trees, they'll say the fruit. They try to say that it's some kind of old fruit called a quince, I think. Something, according to some mythological legends, they say it was an actual fruit, right? That he actually did. We know that it's talking about just the tree of knowledge in the first place, which should already tell you something. What tree have you ever heard of with knowledge on the branches? You know what I'm saying? Knowledge of good living.
It was magical.
Right.
That's the fruit and you get the knowledge.
Yeah, I guess it's like the Matrix, right? You just zone out, no sweat. Yeah. But we just gotta keep this in mind as we learn this thing. Okay? So now we're just gonna get into a couple of different a couple of different things. Might need you to go ahead and clean this for me again. We need a little razor. You ready? Yeah. If you can, sure. Matter of fact, you just clean right here, and I'm gonna move on. All right, so we see this often in the scriptures, right? Lord. Right, written in big bold letters. Well, what is the Most High's name? Yeah,
Yahweh.
right? Most High's name is Yahweh. This is true, right? And oftentimes it's translated as Lord in the scriptures, right? You see Lord. Well, real fast, I just want to get the etymology so we understand. This website I like to go to again. Good resource. Edym online, ETYM online.com. Find, you know what I'm saying, sometimes the origin of words and things like that. Lord, lovered from Old English, Laford, master of a household, ruler, feudal lord, superior, husband, right? Also God, translating Latin Dominus, Greek Kyrios in the New Testament, Hebrew, the word Yahweh, which is obviously not actually means in the whole, right? So it just means, it's just a word that means ruler. You know what I'm saying? But in the case, that's why it's capitalized in the KJV, right? Because it's to signify that the Most High is the Most High, the supreme, the ruler of all things, right? And that happens, there's a word for it, I cannot think of right now. Cannot think of the word for it, but it happens often where a word, it's a regular word that can be used in other contexts, becomes synonymous with a certain person because of their stature. Again, I use this example all the time, like Slovakia, Hitler was called the Führer, which means leader. You know what I'm saying, in German, right? It's a regular word, but he was so infamous, and because he was called the leader, the Führer, now people hear that word and only associate it with him. You understand? Same thing with I think Molech, right? I think Molech is the word Molech is king, right? But he was a Canaanite deity who was called the king or the ruler or something like that. So that's why you're supposed to think Israelites who don't know which way is up, trying to say Lord is evil or some garbage. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Okay? Brother, if you can, Baruch Shah, get me Deuteronomy 6 and 3. 6 and 4.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord.
Okay. Lord our power is one Lord, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and just plan. I'm gonna go ahead and actually write out this in Hebrew. So this is Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 4, correct? Okay, I'm gonna write it in the Syrian. Okay, so lock in. Next line. Sweat. I'm putting the next line. Select. Also a little confusing. We're not gonna stay on this too long.
Surround.
Are you gonna take a stab at it? I'm gonna take a stab at reading the whole through.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah. Sign Christ. All right, so again, I wrote it a little funky because I just didn't have enough space. You know what I'm saying? So this continues to here and to the end. So you're reading it from here to here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Here to here and here. So you got it for it. Select.
Shana Yasharala, Yahweh, Allahim, Allahim, Yahweh, Akda, Akda, Akta, Oh.
No, you taught. I'm gonna be out. But most time in Christ. Most time in Christ, but it's pretty good. If I get that brother in, okay, so first read the scripture again. And again, this will help us understand these words a little better.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 4. Hear, O Israel.
Okay, so first things first. Here, here, right? Shemai.
Shema.
This is the word we always talk about, right? Shemai means to listen, right? Listen. So it's like, listen, Israel. So we got a Shah, a Ma, and an I, right? So we got Shemai, Yasha Allah. Shemai, Yasha Allah, right? So that's the first part where it says, listen. Read it from top.
Hear, O Israel.
Hear, O Israel, or listen, O Israel. Go ahead.
The Lord, our power.
Okay, the Lord, our power, right? So right here, where it says Yahweh, it's translated as Lord. Right? That is the English translation. Right? Lord. So listen, Israel. Yahweh, Lord, our power. You said our power, right?
Yes.
That word is Alahayanawa.
Oh, that's why I couldn't get that.
Count.
Alahayanawa.
Alahayanawa.
Why?
Because it says what?
Our power.
Our power. And this Nawa makes it our, us. Our. Right? Somebody I know kind of write English in, but yeah. So here, listen, Israel, Yahweh, the Lord, our power. Keep going.
Is one Lord.
Is one Lord, right? Lord, our power. Then it says Yahweh again. That's Lord again. The Lord, our power. The Lord is one. It's a God, right? Of course, we know we got Captain Akkad. You know what I'm saying? Up in Philly. Means one. It's like H. God. He is one. So listen, Israel. Yahweh, the Lord, our power. Yahweh is one. Read the next verse, verse 5.
Verse 5. And thou shalt love the Lord thy power with all thine heart.
Right. Thou shalt love the Lord thy power. We're not going to break down that whole thing in Hebrew. But I would like to point out, so like it if I may, right? So if you read that, it says, Wa Ahabath, Atha, Yahweh, Amahayak, Bakal, Lababak, Wabakal, Wapashak, Wabakal, Mahadak, right? So it says, Alahayak, Alahayak, that's thy God, yours, Alahayak. Alahayak, yeah. It's, my power is Alahayak, always, Alahayak, right? In this particular case, right? You know what I'm saying? So, what we understand, again, here is when you see the Lord written in that way, you know what I mean? It's saying Yahweh. Yahweh is the Most High's name. So, if somebody asks you, if some fake Israelite again will challenge this, even though it's written very plainly, you know what I'm saying? We can get another scripture to show it real fast. So, lock it. Second, bear with me. And we use this in the prayer, right? So like your Psalms 83 and 18. Where it says, why the I.S.U.P.K, I.S.U.P.K, Yahweh, La, see now I'm not looking at it, so I'm La, but Doc, Alahayo, it's like I love, you're one, Cal, Haratazar. I know one word I said now, I'm not actually looking at the transliteration. But it says, this is Psalms 83 and 18, that men may know that thou whose name alone is, now of course they wrote Jehovah, that's lies, we know that, right? Thou whose name alone is Yahweh, that's what it comes down to, Yahweh, right? In this series, okay? So we good on that, he's teaching that. We good on that. So I'm gonna need you to clean this right here, right? Okay. Just clean just that. The water. I'm gonna just go work over here. All right. So we understand that Hebrew, you know what I'm saying, is an action-oriented language. You know what I'm saying? Like everything is doing something, everything means something. These names, again, every name that we see, these I was mentioning, you'll be reading through it and you'll see, oh man, that's somebody's name. Right? Like right here, we just that's Captain God's name. One. So that just try that out too. Okay. Let's see, I got what? So now, well, first I want to read some little before. So I can look at it. So what was it? So I can jump on this page. Every vocalization. We might have to do that homework. So that's me.
No water running in the bathroom.
Oh, sweat. All right. So this is a book, right? This is actually, you can find this on Yale, on their website.
Yale?
Yale. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people say this is Yale University, Yale books, PDF from their website. Question, you know, they say, well, Lashawan, Qadash or whatever, they notice, you know what I mean? Let's take a word, let's say, I'm going to use your album. Let's just say, okay, so we'll use Abanalo, right? And we know that no, right? There's only 4 letters. All of these vowels, right? You know what I'm saying, are not accounted for. They're just automatic. And people, if you look at the Hebrew that's put out today, it doesn't look like this. You know what I'm saying? They don't say Tawab, right? They say something like what they say, tall or something. Yeah, like they do. They say like Mazel tall or something garbage like that. You know what I'm saying? They have all kind of, and which is where you get your Yahushua Yeshivas from, right? Because this is what they do. We're gonna see that again. We're gonna actually go to the scripts right now and we break down Yahushua's name that shows exactly what I'm talking about. Right, but first I was gonna get a little bit of this history of language and understanding how it worked, how it truly did work. So this is how they